This episode of The Laser Light Show is brought to you by BelfortLifestyle.com. This is a really innovative concept on fitness that was developed by Vitor Belfort. To learn more about his gyms or even find out more about potentially owning one of these, go to BelfortLifestyle.com. Vitor Belfort is an incredibly inspiring individual. He's also developed a nonprofit organization as well. This episode is brought to you by Together for Them as well. This is a nonprofit organization designed to help fight against human and sex trafficking. Vitor Belfort's sister years ago went missing back in 2004, and that's what initially started this push that Vitor Belfort has been involved with. And so to learn more about that incredible cause, go to together4them.org to find out the amazing things that Vitor and his family are doing. And so this was an incredible interview. It was an honor to get the opportunity and the chance to speak with him. And I think you're going to find out for yourself in listening to this interview just why Vitor Belfort has been so successful, not only in MMA, but in so many other areas of his life. And so we want to do everything we can to help support his cause that he's involved with, both his gym and as well as the nonprofit. So we hope you enjoyed this interview. It was amazing. What's going on, everybody? Dr. Chad Woolner here with Dr. Andrew Wells. And on today's episode of The Laser Light Show, we have with us a special guest, Vitor Belfort, the MMA legend. So we're super excited to get to chat with him. We appreciate him taking time out of his schedule to be here with us. So let's get to it. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, I used to love going to laser light shows at the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry. They would put on these amazing light shows with incredible designs synced up to some of my favorite music. From the Beatles to Pink Floyd to Jimi Hendrix and Metallica, they were awesome. Little did I know then that lasers would have such a profound effect in my life decades later. As a chiropractic physician, I have seen firsthand just how powerful laser therapy is at helping patients struggling with a wide range of health problems. As the leader in laser therapy, Erchonia has pioneered the field in obtaining 20 of the 23 total FDA clearances for therapeutic application of lasers. On this podcast, we'll explore the science and technology and physiology behind what makes these tools so powerful. Join me as we explore low-level laser therapy. I'm Dr. Chad Woolner, along with my good friend, Dr. Andrew Wells, and welcome to The Laser Light Show. All right, welcome to the show, everybody, and a huge welcome to Vitor. Vitor, thank you so much for being here with us. We appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. It's a joy. I'm very excited so we can lace that talk.
I'm excited about this personally. When Erchonia let us know that they were chatting with you and working with you and your son, I kind of got to admit, I geeked out a little bit. I've been a huge fan of yours for a number of years. You've had an incredible career with UFC and in MMA. And let me see if I have this correctly. You're a Carlson Gracie black belt. Is that correct?
Yes.
In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So for those who are familiar with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like in terms of lineage, that's like top of the heap in terms of it's Carlson, it's Hickson, Alio, like all those names there, you're like at the top of the pile there. So that's incredible, first off. And so yeah, absolutely. And what years again did you did your career span in UFC? It was like mid 2000s?
No, I started in 1990, I think 96.
Oh, okay.
When I started, yeah. So that wasn't when it was a tournament.
Okay.
You have to win, the tournament to become a champion. And they created this tournament, and then they came with the super fights. So they had the super fights where the guy who won the tournament goes and fight the super fight. So that's where they created the title. So you win the tournament, you get the medal, and they start creating that super fights. That's today's the title fight. So was right in the beginning, was the UFC, I think, is I don't make a mistake, is where me and Joe Rogan, we made our debut. The same day, Joe Rogan came as an announcer.
Okay.
So it was incredible. So it's many years ago. It's like almost like it's hard to even to crisp it. Like, Joe Rogan was there before Dana White was there.
Right.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. So we debuted the same day, and it was awesome. It was a great experience. I had to face one of the biggest fears of my life, 19-year-old, just fighting huge adults,
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was funny. It was just going back. It was pretty fearful.
Yeah.
I'm looking at some of your original fights, and these date back to, like you said, the late '90s. Like guys like Tank Abbott, Randy Couture. Like,
yeah,
how do you get in the ring and fight someone like that at that age? Vanderlei Silva, also a fellow Brazilian. That guy scares the crap out of me just being on TV.
Because it's too ugly. That's why.
That's part of it. Yeah, that's for sure.
Every time you see ugly man, you get scared. and I say, if you don't smile, you're ugly. You gotta smile. Anybody that smiles, never ugly.
That's
if you have a smile on your face, you're always beautiful.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I started studying Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu about 10 years ago, and don't let that time frame fool you. I'm not great at it at all. I've been a blue belt for way too long. But I studied under Professor Keith Owen. I'm not sure if you know who he is. He passed away a little over a year ago, but he studied directly under Master Pedro Sauer, who studied directly under Rickson Gracie and Helio Gracie. And so I get excited whenever I hear names like the Gracies and Carlson Gracie, and of course, Vitor Belfort here. And so it's for those who have to any degree been involved in jiu-jitsu, your respect for not only jiu-jitsu, but MMA goes up immensely, just because how much technique and skill is involved in that whole process. And so maybe for those who are listening to this, tell a little bit about kind of what got you started in jiu-jitsu in the first place, and kind of what led to you getting into UFC. I'd love to hear that myself.
Yeah, so jiu-jitsu, it's a martial arts that was made by this Gracie family. So Carlos Gracie was Carson's father. Carson, so the whole lineage is pretty, I know people don't talk about it, but I mean, where I grew up at. So Carson Gracie was the son of Carlos, the creator of, and then his brother was Helio Gracie. Helio learned from Carlos. Carlos start sharing the martial arts and just bringing to the family. So as these things start growing, and thinking about, Carson was the guy who saved the names, because they opened up a gym, and on that gym they had these two guys that they went out of the gym and they challenged in the Gracies, was Valdemar Santana and Ivan Gomez. So Ivan Gomez is the guy, they say, one of the toughest opponents of Carson Gracie. They say the fight was a draw, but they were massive guys, very strong guys, and they learned under them. But Valdemar Santana beat Helio Gracie on a fight, beat the crap out of Helio Gracie, and he was the bigger guy. But Helio Gracie was fighting with gi, and the guy with no gi. They have this fight. So and then Carson Gracie was revenge. They say, Carson, we need someone to revenge that fight. So Carson Gracie revenged that fight. He beat Valdemar Santana, and then Carson becomes the face, the guy of MMA called Vale Tudo, mixed martial arts. So he was the front runner. He was the guy who defended the name of the family. For somehow Carson and Eddie, they fought. Carlos died. Carlos, they had a fighting over things, like over a house in Teresópolis, so that he bought with the money, and Carson said, that was my money. So it was just a fight. So Carson was trying to train fighters to beat the Gracies. So Helio Gracie, Rickson Gracie, all this lineage comes from the Gracie, come from Helio Gracie, even Gracie Barra. So everything comes from Helio's lineage. Carson lineage comes from Rosado. You have Murilo Bustamante, you have Amaury Bittet, you have a lot of fighters, a lot, even before they had guys that fought, they had many other guys, so that, they fought in defending the jiu-jitsu name of Carson. And I mean, and Carson's always challenging Rickson Gracie to fight his guys, and they protecting Rickson. Rickson was the man. So it was the whole fight along the day. And I thought it was very stupid. And I would say, Carson, I don't know why you're fighting against your own family. But that was his goal. His goal is always to. And when Lucha Libre that came and challenged Jiu-Jitsu in Brazil, Carson was the guy who trained Fábio Gugel, Murilo Bustamante, and Valides Maio. They fought on the same night against the guys. So he was the guy who trained them. And so was everything was martial arts versus martial arts. Which martial arts is more effective? So jiu-jitsu was something that the Gracie jiu-jitsu now becoming the worldly jiu-jitsu. It's like when you start mixing things, that's what I like mixed martial arts. When you start mixing arts, that's when you have the mixed martial arts. You mix. Before, you don't mix. Either you're a jiu-jitsu fighter, you're a lucha libre, you're karate, you're boxing, you're kickboxing. That's how people want to become knowing, like, my martial arts most effective. So that was the whole purpose of UFC, proving the martial arts. And jiu-jitsu prove when you don't know what I know, I have an advantage, because jiu-jitsu give you the leverage where the small guy can fight a bigger guy, but if he doesn't know the art.
Right.
By the time he start knowing the art, like, and the coach would say size matters. He would say size matters. When he used to tell me, Victor, when these guys, they start learning, martial arts, it's easy to defeat a small guy. So he always knew that size matter. And I remember the size matter. And I'm gonna say, but I always try to say, Carson, I know size matter, but speed matters. And my thing was all speed. You be fast. How can you get the armbar fast? How can you get the tank down fast? How can you pass the guard fast? So I was more into the speed game. So that's why I was very successful in jiu-jitsu, because I started putting speed in my movements. And that's how I achieved success. But also, I was smart enough to say, man, I got to mix martial arts. I have to put boxing. And I remember I was a very young guy from Carson. I was like 16, and I was beating all these adults. They used to do open hands in the gym, called taparia. You just open hand just to do like no gi, you train with the gi, you see. And a lot of people wanted to do that. And some people, they didn't want to do that because it was crazy. Imagine you train your whole class with gi, and then finish the class. Okay, let's see now vale tudo. So you take the gi at just the top of the gi, and then you do open hands, and then you guys see, everybody the head was red. They didn't know how to defend. Yeah. It was pretty cool. And I used to be very successful because I knew boxing. So I used to hit everybody on the face, the body. And Carson saw that and he said, my God, this kid is going to be amazing. And I was to do weights. I used to looking to do other stuff. I came from different sport as well. So, but I was very against that fight, this rivalry. I was thinking it was ridiculous. This guy hate that guy. I remember that they have this rivalry between Valides Maio and Renzo Gracie. The rivalry between Gracie Barra and Carson Gracie was so ridiculous. And it come a time that I want to relate. I love, everybody. I love the Gracie family. I say I want to be related to Rick Hickson. I want to be. So I wanted to learn from different people, but you could not learn that way. If you learn, you're a traitor. If you do this, if you train with that guy, you're a traitor. And I was doing my stuff, and I could not accept that culture. That culture. We're talking about adults. With angry, and I mean, I say, well, it's disgusting. We're not going to grow. We're not going to become successful if we divide. And that was the whole story. That was the whole story. So I know a lot of people don't know that story, but that's how the mixed martial arts, the jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I know jiu-jitsu is so big right now. People don't even know the story of jiu-jitsu. Some people, they know this, they know that. I know the real story because I live with Carson. I was the one who brought Carson to America. I was the one who made his name famous in America. I was the guy who said, promise you, Carson. I was 16 years old. I said, promise you, your name is going to be known, because his whole thing was his name. They need to know that I'm Carson Gracie, that I defend the name of the family, that I was the guy. And I'm saying, Carson, you have that, but don't take away from the other guys. They're doing a great business. And I think it's so sad because imagine if the Gracies was together today. Imagine if the Hickson and Horian and all these people, they would be owning the UFC now, along, with all these guys. So, but I mean, where this ends up, like I said, when you start creating hate, that was the thing for me. Was Carson had that hate on his heart towards, his uncle Elder, and that was never resolved somehow. No one could help him to resolve this with him. It is a lot of ego, and I was just doing a video right now that I'm going to be posting soon in my social media about the ego. So ego, it stands for effort, grit and obedience. That's for me. When you feed the other ego, you're egocentric, you have greedy, and then the O, I'm trying to find the O, because in obedience, it's something that you obey the process, you obey effort, you obey greed, and when you start obeying, the you become egocentric, you became greedy, you start obeying that process. It becomes very contagious. So
Vitor, do you think one of the things that I find fascinating about you, and as we're talking about ego, and I like how you define that as effort, grit, and obedience. The thing that amazes me about you is you're still fighting, and I didn't realize that because I don't really follow martial arts very much. And I was reading about you this week, and not only were you really started as the UFC started, even before, like you mentioned, before Joe Rogan was there. I don't know of anyone else that started at that time period that's still fighting. Like, that's incredible. You boxed, you had a match a month ago, boxing
yes.
match.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you on the interview, why are you still fighting? And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I'm amazed by it, but what drives you to still be in a sport like this that requires so much physically and mentally and so much dedication, and your version of ego?
I love that question. Why? Don't offend me at all. I say there is no stupid question. I teach my kids there is no stupid question. The why question is the most important question. And this why is important because we are defined by the society. Society established a thing, like even Dana White established. MMA is a young man's sport. It's true. MMA is a young man's sport. Boxing is not. Why MMA is a young man's sport? Because requires so much joint movement, and your joints start to get stiff as you get old, as age. So I do a lot of mobility. I developed the Belfort fitness lifestyle, my workout away, because I see the older people, they have a tendency to be stiff. They become very stiff, and that's part of the journey. If you have a car, you have to put oil. And yeah, I call oil is the anointing. For me, the anointing is very important. You have to have an anointing. An anointing is something that you stick. I love to be anointed by God because the anointing of God is something that you have to develop. You have to search. You have to smash that grapes or the oil, the olives to create that oil. So that's called effort. And I mean, so why I still fight is simple. I love competition, and I never had a chance to box. I was doing UFC. I had an offer from Muhammad Ali lawyer to become a boxer when I was 20 years old. They offered me a $2 million contract to leave UFC, and back in the area, you have to fight 2 guys in the night to win 50,000. And it was very seductive, that contract. But when I asked them, I say, I'll be able to do UFC. They say, no, you have to quit UFC, becoming a boxer. So I said, no. And the problem with people in business and fighting, and I understand, when you sign up to play for, let's say you play for Miami Dolphins, you're not allowed to play in the other team. But the Miami Dolphin player, he can become another thing if he can. If it's not against his season, if it's not against, he can open a business, he can do all the business, but not in football. So in fighting, let's say I'm gonna box, why I cannot do MMA when I'm not boxing? Why? And I think it's ridiculous. And I understand this contract, this exclusivity things, it's important. But if I'm not competing against you, why I cannot do something? So that's the whole fight that fighters have now, and promoters are very smart. He locked you in a contract. They don't want you to do things, but I mean, it's pretty cool when you'll be able to do multiple things. Like you see LeBron James, not just being a basketball player, he does his things. And I don't agree with some things that he does, but I mean, he's going to do it. And other guys, you may not agree with that guy, but I mean, he's doing something else. So I could not do it. So now I'm pursuing something that I love. I love boxing. Boxing for me is like jiu-jitsu. I know a lot of people love jiu-jitsu, but for me, boxing is a martial art. So I was the guy who brought boxing to MMA. So I creating ways of punching, of angles, and it's just fascinating what you can do with 2 hands. And when you're putting together combinations like a number with 2 hands, with 1, 2, you can do 3, 4. So everything, I call everything's odd and even. So we have an infinite numbers. You understand? So the 1 is jab, the 2 is right, the hook is cross. So boxing is a map. It's very fascinating if you love jiu-jitsu, and also you can do in an older age. You can do as you age, as you become older. You're 70, you're 80. Jiu-jitsu you cannot. You can put the gi, you can stand on the mat, you can feel the vibe, but you can never roll around. And it's very painful in your joints when you start getting older. And there's a lot of locks, so people get hurt a lot. Not just because they tap and you don't roll with the right people, but your knee not the same. So it's hard. You cannot do this. And so I love fitness. I love wellness. I love well-being. So to answer your question I'm so fascinated with preparation. So the way I treat my body is simple. I'm a body, I have a soul, and I have a spirit. I got to train these 3 elements. So I'm never going to stop becoming a competitor. I have 3 amazing kids in my house. They are amazing competitors. So I'm a model for my kids. And I said, can I push this envelope a little longer so my kids can start coming to see my fights? So my kids are coming to see me fight. So I'm fighting until my wife and my kids say, Dad, it's time to stop. So they love, and I feel good. And I say, when my body cannot handle anymore, I'm gonna, and I know maybe I have 3 more, maybe 4 more, I don't know. But I'm taking my last fight as my last fight. And I think my approach of life, I'm taking this day as my last day. Maybe tomorrow not come. So that's my approach of life. And one thing that I like to encourage people, you're never too young to start something. And you're never too old to start something. So when I say finish something, like we want to finish this race. And that's the thing. Some young people are finishing their race in Earth today. They're going to die. A lot of people are going to die today. And they're dying without doing their best. They're dying without giving their best. So for me, it's feeding your ego is like you putting your effort all in. You have to put all in. You cannot make a non-negotiation. Don't try to make a discount, sales. That's the only place you want to pay full price, effort. And then you have your grit. You cannot negotiate with your grit. You have to not trying to make a discount. Don't have nothing on sale. It's full price. And obedience comes with full price. You know, if you don't obey the whole process, so it's fun. It's being a competition, feeling that nervous systems, you know, the parasympathetic and sympathetic just kind of conflict from each other. It's pretty cool, man.
I think that's a perfect segue, what you just shared there with Erchonia lasers. I'm curious as to how, first off, you've connected with Erchonia, but second, how these lasers have played a role in helping you with your overall fitness and performance.
I have a good friend of mine. I call him a family member of mine. He's like a brother to me, a big brother. Is Dave. You know, Dave Zoe is from Arizona. He has one of the best MMA teams. He helped setting up all these camps for all these fighters. He set up I know a lot of people don't even know who Dave is, but Dave is the guy who provides the whole infrastructure and the whole behind the scenes. You know, you don't know what goes behind the scenes, but he's the guy who is really not just helping, but he's putting his effort. And I admire people. They're not just putting put your mouth where your money is. So he's really not just, he's put his whole body. He's really there, you know, he's helping. And we have Henry Cejudo fighting, you know, now for the title. So he's very aware of putting this stuff and creating this longevity and healing. And he knows so much about the recovery system. So he say, Victor, I have a laser for you. Why don't you use that laser? So I started using this laser and pretty powerful. And like I said, everything that you have, any tool that you have to add in your system. And I mean, I believe if you do your part, not just one, I cannot credit to one thing. It's doing a lot of little things together. And together they become a huge unity. The problem is when you start putting your hope on this. Oh, no. You can't, you gotta have this, plus that, plus that. So it's a lot of small elements together. That's what makes who you are. And if you look, I have five fingers in each hand, and then I have my wrist, and then I have my forearm, and then I have my biceps, and then comes and goes to my neck. So my whole body, what's the most important part of my body? Every part is important. Right. And that's the realization of understanding, doing little, a lot, not a lot, little. And that's my thing, you know. And if you do the laser one time, not gonna help you, but if you do consistently, if you're part of your lifestyle, and actually I'm waiting for my laser here because I had a torn pack. I hope my laser's on the way because I gotta start my treatment.
That's awesome. So in terms of what you've noticed using the lasers, obviously you're using them for, helping with injuries and things like that. Have you noticed any improvement in terms of just performance? How else have you used the lasers?
Like I said, I think everything I do perform, every drink of water, every sip of water, I think my body gets stronger. For everything that I do, it's just like I said, it's a 1% a day. Yeah. I don't give praise to. The only thing that does 100% is God. Besides that, everything you have to keep doing. I believe in consistency. I believe in consistency. If you tell me that you're gonna do this for 1 week, you're gonna be good, I said no, you're lying. I believe God can do it in 1 week, but I mean, unfortunately, it's a process. You healing happens by process. A process of little things. Of course, lasers, I feel like it's part of my lifestyle. It's part of what I do. When I'm injured, I know they have multiple things to do it, but I mean, I like to be simple. I use the laser more into the recovery, maybe store, a lot of things you can be done with laser. So you got to use it. Like I said, if you do one time, think you're going to have the result. I'm sorry, you're not.
Yeah.
You got to do more than one time. So you have a protocol to do it. And for everything, you have a protocol. I call him and I call Joe, and Joe say, "Hey, Victor, do this, do this." So the settings, it's so confused, but I just follow. I follow the lead, and just and that's the thing. I just obey the process.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way of
we've had the privilege now of interviewing several people that are professional athletes. We interviewed Henry Cejudo, Elijah Garcia, who's an up-and-coming boxer, all using lasers in their training and their recovery. And I think especially for families like yours, Vitor, who, you have an active family, you have a son who's a very talented football player, you're in combat sports, you get kicked in the head, punched in the head.
And I got a volleyball player and a track field. So my kids are amazing. My daughter is the fastest girl in Florida on Florida.
Wow.
She's the fastest girl in Florida. My daughter, she's the best libero in the country. And my son is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So I have these three amazing athletes. So, and you ask me why I compete. I love to become an example in my house. I love to do things in my house. They don't eat sugar. I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke, drink, nothing that changed my behavior. And I know the science, this. So BS. Now they're saying alcohol give you longevity, small dose. BS. They want to just make you sell more wine or more liquor. So just so you're understanding, if you want to live longer, if you want to have a good life, stay with the earth. Everything that the earth produces. And when I say earth, I'm not saying things that, because sometimes earth produces some bad stuff. You're not gonna, I don't believe weed's gonna make you perform better. Weed's gonna make you slow. It's gonna give you more hunger. Gonna give you more desire to craving for sweets. So, but weed is good to treat epilepsy. Okay, great. I don't have epilepsy. I'm an athlete. And I see a lot of athletes are smoking and doing all this and becoming advocate. Oh, take your pain away. No, take your pain away. Go do laser. Go do massage. Go do some therapy. Go looking for some turmeric and some good things that are not going to change your mind. You play with your parasympathetic and sympathetic. So I'm very in favor. That's why I love laser, because it's something that is not going to change it's just going to help healing where I'm hurt. So the problem with people, they want to treat things, bringing something that would give you a pleasure, like alcohol give you a pleasure. With people leave happy hour, go work out, go do a workout, go for a run. No, but they want to sit down and produce dopamine by taking a sip in something. And now we see the industry is huge. We have liquors of every actor, every athlete they're launching their own liquor, the tequila. It's all heavy stuff. And I'm telling you, you're just gonna mess up your whole system. And I mean, if you want to live longer.
I think Vitor, you're bringing up a really good point. And when you look at the really cool thing about your family is, I think number one, they're all very talented people. But I think a lot of people would assume, they just have really good genes. You have Vitor, who's somehow some superhuman. He's got this beautiful model wife, and somehow they just created these by accident, these superhuman children. But I want people to recognize, and especially we have a lot of doctors that listen to this podcast, is that what you're talking about in the example that you're leading with your kids about the choices they make and the lifestyle you guys lead, that it's multifaceted. It's mental, it's spiritual, and it's physical, and it's very well-rounded. And so here you have a guy who's 46 years old, still competing at a high level. He has children who are competing at the top of their heap in terms of athletics. That wasn't produced by accident. It wasn't just lucky genes. It was effort. And I love. Have you written a book, by the way, on ego?
No.
You should. It's incredible.
I really, because I have this thing called, I'm doing like a course of setting a performance course, not just for athletes, but for businessmen, for people in the industry. So I'm setting this, and we're talking about the ego is like who you are. So what is ego? It's just your personality. And it's funny, I was just sharing this. What is, selfishness? Selfish when you something so much for you. You want that you want just for you. And what is, being greedy is the same thing. You want everything for you. So we live in a world today, people are very selfish, they're very greedy, and they don't understand the process of effort, grit, obedience. They're very egocentric. It's everything about them, ew, and me. So in this book, in this course, we're going to talk about the flip of a letter. The flip of a letter is called We Are Athletes. And I'm telling you, I discovered that when my wife said, "You're so selfish. You're so selfish." I used to hear this every day from my wife. "You're so selfish. You're so selfish. Our life is just around you. You don't understand. This is what in the beginning of our marriage, you're so selfish. You're so selfish." I say, great. How can I be no more selfish? Because the life of an athlete is selfish. And even I'm encouraging my wife to do a course for women of athletes, because a lot of guys are going through that stage right now. And Harry said who he's going. His wife is just a baby. She's pregnant again, and now we have a fight. It's And my wife said it's funny because you had a head coach, you had a mentor coach, you had a nutrition coach, you had all type of coach. What about me? I'm in your house. I'm your wife. What about me? I have your kids. We are seeing you going. How you think I feel when you go into the ring? How you think your kids feel when you go into the ring? Can you know another side? We don't have mental health coach. We don't have nothing. So she has to learn the hard way. And today, let's say it's not just a fighter. Let's talk about, the wife of a quarterback. Do you imagine what she's going through her mind? She's there. When they're winning, everybody loves her. But when they're losing, when they're throwing picks, everybody hates her. They're not just going to talk about you. They're going to talk about her. She's a slut or this or whatever it is. But you're hearing your husband. They're yelling in your husband. So this is how the kids mind. How's the family deal with that? The whole stadium just yelling. You ever thought about these kids? And my wife make me understand. Say, okay, how can I be less selfish? So I call the flip of a letter. So if every athlete and every businessman, this is not just for athletes, just go for businessmen, for people that have family. If you have a wife and kids and you have a successful marriage, you're going to have to know how to flip one letter, called the letter M, me. Me, we in the me generation. Me. You have more than one kid, you know what it's me. So the me, it's you flip the letter, become we. You flip just one letter. And another thing too is like in team, there has no I. In team has no I, but has M. You flip the team, you become we, But in win, you have a W, you flip the W, become me, and you have an I. As personality, you have a person. So you have just one person. So I have a whole system that I'm going to go talk about this whole system, team, win, it's a lot of subjects, but make you realize that, and I had to be selfish. And when I was reading the Bible, I called the selfish love. What is a selfish love? Selfish love is I have to love me first to love you. That's what Jesus said. So Jesus was very selfish in a way. And I call the selfish love comes from God. So I told my wife, I said, honey, if you feel like I'm selfish, I'm going to turn this selfishness away in something good. So I'm going to make you part of it. So we start being part of it. She's part of my camp, including her, including the kids. I explain them. I brought sponsors. I say, what about this? I should put my image on this? No, you should. So I make them part of it because it's a business family. And of course, has a limit right there. Of course, you're not going to include them in everything. I'm not going to bring them to the ring with me. But in a way, I think we all, to have success, like I say, how I measure success. This is another great question. How do I measure success? How fast? How speed? I measure success. How is my internal life? How my internal self? I'm okay with it. So you see a lot of champions, a lot of winners. They need to prove themselves more. They need to show they have money. They need to buy cars. They need to show diamonds. So we are in the crisis of identity today. That's for sure. People have a very crisis of identity. They don't know who they are, and now they come with all types of, oh, I'm this, I'm that. I feel like I'm an alligator. Respect me. I'm alligator. Treat me as an alligator. We're going to a time that people are so crazy about this. So for me, it's simple. You either who are you? People don't know who they are. They're trying to become something they are not, and people are trying to create this as a rule. Oh, respect now. No. You're a boy, you go to a boy's restroom. You're a girl, you go to a girl's restroom. I'm not gonna have a big guy with think he's a girl, but he has a huge snake between his legs. He's gonna go in the same bathroom of my daughter? No way. No way. So we're coming to a point where people are very deceived with this identity crisis that we live in. So you have to be very selfish first. You got to be selfish. And my selfishness has to understand that it's including a lot of people, and they have time for everything. And I'm very specific in this house here with the sacrifice. Another day, I was having fun with my wife. She was, kids training too much. They need a break. I was just hearing. Go ahead. And she was giving her lecture for me. This, they need to do this. And I say, honey, do you have a belt in your office? Do you have a medal, Olympic medal in your? What? I need to know what you conquered to have that kind of mentality. And I say, honey, they're not doing enough. They gotta do more. And I made her realize, say, honey, I understand, I respect you, what you know, but right now the grind, I know the grind. And you gotta understand the grind has to get bigger. And my wife bought into that. When my wife bought into that, now she comes with that mentality, but also the love of a mother. Oh no, they need need rest. Okay, and I understand they have that touch. But I was, before I got into the podcast, I was just with my son watching his throwing session that I filmed yesterday, and I was on him. His coach called his coach. We're talking. Why I'm like that? Because either I am all in or I'm all out. I cannot be between. So it's a lot of little things that have to be done properly. But we're okay. People are okay. Oh, it's okay. You'll be fine. No, you'll not be fine. I cannot accept that. And that's the life of a fighter, the life of an athlete. You not just win inside that ring or the octagon or that field. The life of an athlete, it's happening outside of that field. And I always like to measure my kids and say, the way I measure a man by their family. I want to meet their wives. I want to meet their kids, because sometimes you're very successful on their environment. You're very successful in business. You have so much money, but your kid doesn't want to be your kid. We have one of the wealthy men on the planet. His son has an identity problem, and his father somehow, the son doesn't want to be his son. He wants to be disassociated with his father. So for me, this is a measure. Like, I got me so sad, man. I said, man, how can I help this father? How can I help this son? And I feel in my heart, how can I help them? Because I know the problem is so easy to be fixed, but for them it's so hard because they don't understand the principle that for me, that's my wealth. That's my measure of wealth. You ask me, Victor, you're very rich. I'm very rich. I'm very rich because I have that narrowed down very strong in my house. So
what's inspiring to me as I hear you share your experiences and your insights here, Vitor, is far too often we hear the common tale of whether it's athletes or performers or musicians or actors and entertainers, right? And it's the all too common tale where they rise and they reach their kind of pinnacle. And then unfortunately, there's this kind of slow and steady decline that takes place because of the selfishness that you talk about, because of the, them focusing on pleasure and all the different things that we know. And yet it seems that you've kind of seen that already. You recognize that at an early point, and it seems like your life is still reaching this incredible trajectory because of the fact that you're linking so much of your identity and your perception of success and fulfillment in life around family, around service to others, around all these incredibly meaningful things. I'm reminded as you're talking there, a very wise man, a leader in my church years ago said, no success can compensate for failure in the home. And
come on, somebody. No success.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write it down. That one. I'm gonna write it down, man. I'm a learner, man. No success.
No success can compensate for failure in the home. And I just, as you're talking there about like your involvement with your kids and this drive to continue to help them, it's very obvious that the motivation behind that is out of love, is out of a desire to see them become the best versions of themselves. And so that's just inspiring to me to hear you say that, because I think other people will really resonate with that when people realize, because for me, I can't agree more that like my greatest fulfillment and happiness in life comes from my relationships, first and foremost with my spouse and my kids, but relationships with others too is a huge part of what drives me as well. And so it's neat to hear that. Really, really incredible.
Yeah. And we live in that crisis of identity comes to a point that where, the wrong is right and the right is wrong. So, and the problem is, like, I was hearing my friend was talking about who are the science teachers, because when you go to the school, you're learning from the school. Am I right? They teach you science, but who are the people that you're learning from? The people that are atheists, people they don't believe in God, they don't believe in existence. So you're learning something that can be such a lie, but they introduce to the society as, oh, now you're learning the subject. I think sports supposed to be great. Sport competition. I'm not good at sport. Okay, go be a musician. Find something. So the problem with this, everything evolved. The only thing that didn't evolve was education. Education is still the same. So it's so bad. And you see all these billionaires creating their own schools because they don't believe in the education system. And some millionaires, they put their school in a public school. They don't care because the only thing they care is money. So I'm very aware. I'm not happy with the education system today. I'm not happy the way my kids are learning. So, and I use sport as a lesson. So it's a great teacher. It's a great equalizer because teach you failures, teach you grind, teach you dedication, determination. So I don't believe schools are now in the AI, don't get me wrong, the technology making people weak, make people lazy, make people fat. And I say it's funny because before, it's great. We're talking here, we're using technology, it's great. But if we can use technology to good, but now we're using, like, for example, you're in your house, you have the control. You don't, before you have to get up, turn the TV on. And then you have a couch that incline and you put, so everything is to make you lazy, don't get up. And then you have a Uber Eats. Nobody cooks anymore. So, and then what they do, you have a society so lazy, and now they want to get rid of all this. You go to a supermarket. I don't like to computer. I don't talk to computer. I don't talk to Alexa. I don't talk. Even I turn Alexa off because when I ask her to do something, she does something totally different. I say, I don't want to hear that. That's not the music that I asked for. Shut up. Alexa, we don't play that kind of music in the house. And she keep playing. And she's disobeying me. So the fact that I'm very human, I love people. And I know AI is going to take so many jobs. one thing AI doesn't have is called the critical thinking. AI cannot do critical thinking. And you can have my voice, you can have my face, you can have all that, but you cannot have my heart. You cannot have my mind. So there is nothing that you can subside the human. And I think today, AI is making us become robotic. And you see kids, everybody's on the phone, you go to the school. So it's ridiculous. So it's such a pandemic. We got to come with a solution. And that's why I want to teach my principles, my ego. I say, feed your ego, because every day you wake up, you're going to have to feed your ego. You're either going to be greedy or you're going to have grit. You're going to be, full of yourself, full of like egocentric, or you're going to embrace effort. So you got to choose this thing. Either you're going to be obedient to all these things or you're going to be obedient to the other things. So obedience is something that you're either going to be for good or for bad. You choose how you want to obey the process. So to summarize everything is like how I measure success. This is very important because I want to be successful, but how I measure success go down to my roots. First, I go down to who I am. What my faith, what I believe. I believe in what? What God is I believe in a high power. I believe in meditation. That's all BS. You believe in yourself. My God has a cross. My God has a way of living. My God went through what I call flesh, because I don't believe God, never being in my flesh, he couldn't tell me what to do. I don't tell my kids what to do. I tell them, follow me. Do what I do, not do what I say. So God for somehow has to become a person to go through my feelings, feeling angry, feeling hate, feeling betrayed, feeling all this. He has to go through all that. So he can say, okay, now you guys follow me. So my God has a cross, has a way of living. My God has a name, Jesus. And why? I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about a system that you do the sign of the cross and you're okay. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about if I do a Lord's Prayer and keep doing my sin, I'm going to be blessed. No, my God that I serve, he said, I'm going to give you problems, but my problem is going to make you persistent, perseverance. And your perseverance is going to be faith. So I believe everything that the churches are selling today, all this motivation, come here, you're going to be set free from your debts. No, it's all lie. I believe you're going to have problems. You need to have tribulation. You need to have, because that's the only way you're going to succeed. It's like when I build my muscles, I build my muscle by what? Creating that, intensity. And I mean, inflammation is not bad for your body. It has to be good, but what type of inflammation? We go back to the laser. So I love the laser because the laser is like something. So the laser has a light that goes inside. It's a very, very, so called the light. You have to be the light. You have to be that laser. You have to be that. That's what's the requirements of God. Jesus said, be the light of the world. Be the salt. The salt is another element that's healing. I use a lot of salt in my healing process. I love salt. Salt is very important in bath with salt, things like that, that's healing your muscles. So I think the measure of success of an athlete, the measure of success of a business owner, it's wrong. They go to their bank account, how much evaluation, I bought this, I did this. Okay, yeah, you are. But when you die, you cannot take that thing with you, my brother. Either you're going to go to hell or you're going to go to heaven. And you're not going to go to God and say, God, I was a star at the court. I did this. I was MVP. You're not going to impress. So for me, the measure of success of Vitor Belfort, it's my faith, my beliefs, my system, my core. God is everything. God is not in a category of things. God is first, second. No, God is not in a category of things. Either he's everything or he's nothing. That's for me. That's my thing. Either God is everything or he's nothing. And it's hard for God to be everything. So it's a seeking process. It's doing little, a lot. And then it's never good enough because that's the way it is. And then in the other categories goes to my things that my beliefs, what are things that are that the most important thing is my family. And I made and I did this homework with my kids, and I said, I want 5 athletes that have an amazing marriage. I want 5 athletes that you think it's relevant, and you send me. I want to see them. Took so much time for them to find these 5 guys because they have second marriage, third marriage, and I understand, But I mean, the problem is when you start making kids with different moms, it becomes a mess. It becomes a mess. It never becomes good. You can make it become good, especially if you have a little bit more money. Everybody said it's fine, but emotionally, never good. I'm talking about emotionally is never good. So you never go into a relationship preparing to divorce. You never start a fight willing to quit. So my thing is, the problem of the world comes into relationships. People start friendship, but they end it right away because it's all about what I have for me. So, and that's basically for me the standard why I keep fighting, why I keep doing business, and a lot of business I have to close, I have to do this, didn't work because of people. I didn't have the right people. But doesn't mean I'm not going to try it again. I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to invest in somebody again. So that's like buying a pet. Your pet dies, you go and buy another pet because you have attachment with the pet. But what is the only one thing you can never replace? Is you. You can never replace you. And that's why go back to identity. People, they don't know who they are anymore. Yeah. They're just a piece of a marketing process that you buy what I want, you do what I want. So that's kind of my literally my core values for you guys here.
Yeah, amazing.
I think that this is such a valuable message for people to hear, especially today as we record this in 2023. Such an important message, and it really I can speak for Erchonia saying we really appreciate you promoting lasers, at the fact that you use them in your routine, and I think that's an important thing. And they're happy to support you in your efforts. And I think what you're doing
be the light of the world and be the laser of the world. That's a good slogan. So that's a good slogan. Be the laser of the world, because laser. Yeah. That's what I trust laser. Laser is a deep light that goes inside the tissues, and I love that's the process of the light, what the light can do to you, and of course, get the right laser.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Vitor, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This was a really an amazing episode, and we really weren't sure what direction this podcast would go in, but so happy that it went in the direction that it did, and really appreciate your lessons that you're teaching people in life and the way that you lead yourself and your family. I think it's just a really powerful message. And thank you so much. And hopefully we'll get an opportunity to have you on again sometimes as you start to use the lasers more with your family and yourself. So thank you.
100%. It's part of my life. I'm waiting for my laser. Actually, I hope I arrive. I'm going to be posting some stuff on social media, what you can do with the laser. And I think is what I like to invite you guys to come to my gym, to Belfort Fitness Lifestyle, and talking about, I think you guys are going to show the website over there. So what it is like 1 hour class. It's 1 hour class, half the class on the bag, half the class on the floor. I have a whole science behind it. It's called the 2-to-1 ratio, 3-to-1 ratio, 4-to-1 ratio. And I'm not going to go into details here. I'm going to make you guys very curious about it. So it's all we treat the body as like, I think the body is like you are the healing author. Like you decide what you put in your body, what you think, what you drink, and what you eat. That's my theory behind. I teach all my students, if you don't think you can do something, because you think so many evil thoughts, so many crazy thoughts, but you don't dwell on them. So I call my diet, it's like I have to exercise every day, at least an hour. So when I'm not training for a fight, I'm going to my gym every day. I'm the guy who developed the whole project, the whole program system. So I would love you guys to come here one day and try.
We'd love that.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, that would be
absolutely
incredible.
Soon we're gonna be doing something on the offering people online service as well. So it's gonna be fun.
Awesome, that's amazing. And I understand that I didn't want to end the episode without plugging this as well. You are involved in an organization to help support a fight against human trafficking. Is that correct?
Yes. And my sister was missing 2004,
oh.
3 weeks before my title fight, this belt here. And since then, we saw this human trafficking. It's the largest trafficking in the world today, because it's when you use cocaine, you have to buy it again. When you use weed, you have to buy it again. Actually, weed is not even the drug anymore. But when a person, you can sell them every day. So a 12-year-old kid usually serves 25 guys a day. And we have tons of consumers. And today, unfortunately, we're so glad to live in Florida, because our governor DeSantis just put if you do something with a little kid, you a death penalty. In California, oh my God, they're trying to protect these pedophiles as much as they can. So I'm really for protecting our children, but not just protecting our children. Now we see this with this ethanol. I think this drug, people are giving, and they make you pass out, and they bring you, they harvest your organs. So it's so many things behind this human trafficking. And I think we also support, I think everyone should support that. And with all this social media, with all this platform that we have, no one get missing. No one should be missing today. So unfortunately, we are just trying to prevent. That's and we like to invest in people that can do like other things as well, treating these kids, these women, and hope to educating people. What's this evil behind the coming to society is big.
Well, we certainly appreciate it. We'll make sure to put links in the show notes. And it's been an absolute pleasure and honor to get to chat with you, Vitor. My quote among many quotes is, do a little, a lot, rather than a lot, a little. I like that a lot. So,
and I like the quote that you said about your passion. No success can be compensated. Finish.
For failure in the home. Absolutely.
Wow.
So anyway.
Vitor, I'm putting your ego on my wall in front of me here in front of my desk. That's going up this week.
That's awesome.
I'll send you a picture of it. I love that.
Please.
Thank you for sharing that.
God bless you guys. Take care.
Yeah. God bless you too. Thank you everybody for listening, and we'll chat with you guys on the next episode. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to the Laser Light Show. Be sure to subscribe and give us a review. If you're interested in learning more about Erchonia lasers, just head on over to erchonia.com. There you'll find a ton of useful resources, including research, news, and links to upcoming live events, as well as Erchonia's e-community, where you can access for free additional resources, including advanced training and business tools. Again, thanks for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode.